Design Thinking, lecture number 1. The theme of the lecture is Principles of Design Thinking. According to the plan of our lecture, we are going to discuss the following questions. The first, defining the design thinking. The second, a short history of design thinking. And the third question is principles of design thinking. First of all, we should give the definition, what is design thinking? And we should explain these two words, these two terms, what is design and what is thinking. Let's start with the definition of design. Design is a plan or specification for the construction of an object or system, or for the implementation of an activity or process, or the result of that plan or specification in the form of prototype, product, or process. And what is thinking? Thinking is the cognitive activities you use to process information, solve problems, make decisions, and create new ideas. You use your thinking skills when you try to make sense of experience, organize information, make a connection, ask questions, make plans, or decide what to do. The term thinking can be characterized as mental activity that helps to formulate or solve a problem, to make a decision, or to seek understanding. Thinking involves critical and creative aspects of the mind, both the use of reasons and the generation of ideas. In recent years, the importance of innovation is increasing as a means to solve problems in the complex human society, and design thinking is used in various fields as one of the approaches. Design thinking is a method for realizing innovation in technology and business domain using human-centered approach with designer's sensibility and way of thinking. Design thinking is a way of finding human needs and creating new solutions using the tools and mindsets of design practitioners. Design thinking is a process for solving complex problems and involving innovation opportunities. By emphasizing speed, collaboration, and human-centered insights, the process often solves challenges much faster than traditional project delivery methods. Design thinking is a comprehensive, customer-oriented innovation approach that aims to generate and develop creative business ideas or entire business models. Essentially, design thinking attempts to project designers' approaches and methods onto business processes. Society need for innovation is constantly growing, driven by a demand for new products. The working environment for this process is designed to promote creativity. Also, here we can speak about 3 P's of design thinking: people, the human being; process, the problem-solving process; and place, it's the working place, must be considered for the successful idea development. And we can add the fourth P, it is partnership, since a large number of partners must be involved in the development and implementation of ideas. With design thinking, input from the various of knowledgeable perspective is used to evaluate assumptions, generate ideas for potential solutions, and test concepts with representative users before a final approach is determined. A deep understanding of users is the key to most design thinking activities. Initially, the process was born in the world of visual design, but is now popularly used to transform how organizations develop products, services, and business strategies by leveraging a step-by-step design thinking framework. A variety of business and technical roles can be empowered with creative tools that quickly and effectively produce desirable solutions. Design thinking is not an exclusive property of designers. All great innovations in literature, art, music, science, engineering, and business have practiced it. So, why call it design thinking? What's special about design thinking is that designers' work processes can help us systematically extract, teach, learn, and apply these human-centered techniques to solve problems in a creative and innovative way in our designs, in our businesses, in our countries, in our lives. Some of the world's leading brands such as Apple, Google, Samsung have rapidly adopted the design thinking approach, and design thinking is being taught at leading universities around the world. Design thinking originally came about as a way of teaching engineers how to approach problems creatively like designers do. One of the first people who write about design thinking was John Arnold, professor of mechanical engineering at Stanford University. In 1959, he wrote Creative Engineering, the text that established the 4 areas of design thinking. From there, design thinking began to evolve as the way of thinking in the fields of science and design engineering, as can be seen in Herbert Simon's book, The Sciences of the Artificial, and Robert McKean's Experiences in Visual Thinking. Developing creativity techniques in the 1950s and new design method in the 1960s led to the idea of design thinking as a particular approach to creatively solving problems. Among the first authors to write about design thinking was Bruce Archer in Systematic Method of Designers. John Arnold was one of the first authors to use the term design thinking. In creative engineering, he distinguishes 4 areas of design thinking. According to Arnold, design thinking can yield novel functionality, solutions that satisfy a novel need, or solutions that satisfy an old need in an entirely new way. Second, higher performance level of a solution. The third, lower production costs. And the fourth, increased sellability. Thus, according to this early concept, design thinking covers all forms of product innovation, including especially incremental innovation, higher performance, and radical innovation. Arnold recommends a balanced approach, product developers should seek opportunities in all 4 areas of design thinking. The notion of design as the way of thinking in the sciences can be traced to Herbert Simon's 1969 book, The Sciences of Artificial, and in design engineering to Robert McKeem's 1973 book, Experiences in Visual Thinking. Brian Lawson's 1980 book, How Designers Think, primarily addressing design in architecture, began a process of generalizing the concept of design thinking. A 1982 article by Nigel Cross, Designerly Way of Knowing, established some of the intrinsic qualities and abilities of design thinking that also make it relevant in general education and thus for wider audiences. Peter Rowe's book, Design Thinking, which described methods and approaches used by architects and urban planners, was a significant early use of the term in the design research literature. An international series of research symposia in design thinking began in Delft University of Technology in 1991. With the rise of human-centered design in the 90s and the formation of design consultancy IDEO, the global design company in the 90s, design thinking became increasingly popular. At the start of the 21st century, design thinking was making its way into the world of business. In 2005, Stanford University School began teaching design thinking as an approach to technical and social innovation. Design thinking is both an ideology and a process that seeks to solve complex problems in a user-centric way. It focuses on achieving practical results and solutions that are technical, feasible, they can be developed into functional products of process, economically viable, the business can afford to implement them, and desirable for user. They meet a real human need. The ideology behind design thinking states that in order to come up with innovative solution, one must adopt a designer's mindset and approach the problem from the user's perspective. At the same time, design thinking is all about getting hands-on. The aim is to turn your ideas into tangible, testable products or processes as quickly as possible. The design thinking process outlines a series of steps that bring this ideology to life, starting with building empathy for the user, right thought, to coming up with ideas and turning them into prototypes. The design thinking helps us tackle wicked problems. The uniqueness of design thinking lies in the kind of problems it addresses. When it comes to the problems to be solved with design thinking, we are not just talking about ordinary common problems that have tried and tested solutions. We are talking about highly complex, wicked problems, the kind that refuse to be solved using standard forms and approaches. Not only are these problems difficult to define, but any attempt to solve them is likely to get way to even more problems. Wicked problems are everywhere, ranging from global issues such as climate change and poverty to challenges that affect almost all businesses, such as change management, achieving sustainable growth, or maintaining your competitive edge. Design thinking is an actionable approach which can be used to tackle the world's wicked of problems. It fosters user centricity, creativity, innovation, and out-of-the-box thinking. What are the principles of design thinking? There are certain principles that are prior to design thinking. These are reflected in the design thinking methodology. We are outlined 5 of design thinking's most important principles. The first, user centricity and empathy. Second, collaboration. The third, ideation. The fourth, implementation, experimentation, and iteration. And the fifth is a bias towards action. So let's explain the principles, each principles. The first is user centricity and empathy. Design thinking is all about finding solutions that respond to human needs and user feedback. People, not technology, are the drivers of innovation. So an essential part of the process involves stepping into the user's shoes and build genius, empathy for your target audience. Collaboration. The aim of design thinking is to pull a diverse variety of perspectives and ideas. This is what leads to innovation. Design thinking encourages collaboration between heterogeneous, multidisciplinary teams which may not typically work together. The third principle is ideation. Design thinking is solution-based framework, so the focus is on coming up with many ideas and potential solution as possible. Ideation is both a core design thinking principle and a step in the design thinking process. The ideation step is a designed judgment-free zone where participants are encouraged to focus on the quantity of ideas rather than the quality. The fourth principle is experimentation and iteration. It is not just about coming up with ideas, it's about turning them into prototypes, testing them, and making changes based on user feedback. Design thinking is an iterative approach to be prepared to repeat certain steps in the process as you uncover flaws and shortcomings in the early version of your proposed solution. And the last principle is a bias toward action. Design thinking is an extremely hand-on approach to problem solving, favoring action over discussion. Instead of hypothesizing about what your users want, design thinking encourages you to get out there and engage with them face to face, rather than talking about potential solution, you will turn them into tangible prototypes and test them in real world context. Thank you very much for your attention.